Good evening. What a beautiful night. How beautiful you all look. How great it is to be here. Welcome to the Museum of Science, home of the National Center for Technological Literacy. I am Tom Ashbrook, host of WBUR's On Point on NPR. Tonight we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Bradford Washburn Award, and we present the 2014 Washburn Awards to 3 individuals from the areas of government, media, and science, who have made outstanding and ongoing contributions toward the public's understanding of science, its importance, its fascination, and the vital role it plays in our lives. Bradford Washburn had a lifetime of accomplishments in aerial photography, mountaineering, cartography, and as founder and director of the Museum of Science for over 40 years. As a fellow of both the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and London's Royal Geographic Society, Brad Washburn was, as Massachusetts Governor Endicott Peabody said, a man of great imagination, great drive, great initiative, and a great ability to get along with people. That's a pretty good combination. The Bradford Washburn Medal captures his spirit as an explorer. Sculpted by Alice and Rufus Macomber, it depicts a youth at the pinnacle of a mountain, eyes turned upward, seeking a still higher prize. Symbolizes the spirit of attainment as well as the quest for perfection. Over the past 50 years, the Bradford Washburn Award has been presented to 21 PhDs, 3 MDs, 3 SCDs, 1 captain, 1 rear admiral, 1 brigadier general, 1 U.S. surgeon general, a U.S. secretary of the Air Force, and 4 sirs, as in Knights of the Realm. The award has gone to oceanographer Sylvia Earle, often called the Queen of the Deep. Good Lord, I love that woman. She's awesome. Donald Baxter McMillan, a high school teacher from New England who was recruited to join Robert Peary's expedition to the North Pole. CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America, was for me. Jane Goodall, a United Nations Messenger of Peace, Captain Jacques Cousteau, who received a Washburn Award in 1965, and his son Jean-Michel, who was honored 46 years later. Chuck Yeager, the first pilot to fly at the speed of sound, not just 1 but 2 hosts of Cosmos, Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Sally Ride, the first American woman in space, bless her soul. René Dubos, a microbiologist who urged his students to think globally, act locally. And of course, the Mythbusters, Jamie Hyneman and Adam Savage. Among the exclusive Washburn Award Club are Oscar and Emmy winners, a winner of the Palme d'Or at Cannes, multiple winners of Pulitzers and Peabody Awards, Guggenheim Fellows, and 1 winner of the Nobel Prize. That was Harvard's George Wald in 1967 for discoveries related to the physiological and chemical processes in the eye. The award has honored anthropologists, astronomers, biologists, engineers, environmentalists, explorers, filmmakers, illustrators, physicians, and 2 very prolific science fiction writers. The Washburn Award has recognized the work of broadcasters from ABC, CBS, Fox, the BBC, NPR, and PBS, journalists from the New York Times, Scientific American, the New Yorker, and National Geographic, educators from MIT, RISD, Harvard, Columbia, Cornell, Tufts, Rockefeller University, University of Pennsylvania, and the University of Rhode Island. In all, 54 remarkable men and women have received the Bradford Washburn Award. 54 men and women whose achievements in their fields were complemented by their skill in science communication. Tonight we will bestow 3 Washburn medals and hear remarks from all 3 of our 2014 honorees, followed by a short Q&A session, my favorite part. We've got a great evening for you, remarkable honorees. Let's dive right in. Please join me in welcoming Museum of Science President and Director Janis Mulis.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you all for joining us tonight for this very special event. I would first like to thank our sponsors for this special 50th anniversary celebration of the Bradford Washburn Award. As many of you know, on September 25th, Barbara Washburn passed away at the age of 99. During a marriage of 66 years, Barbara joins Brad in nearly all his endeavors. Their life together spanned the transformation of the New England Museum of Natural History into the Museum of Science. In 1947, Barbara became the first woman to climb North America's tallest mountain, Mount McKinley. That was not by choice, as she told me. Together, Brad and Barbara mapped Mount Everest, Mount McKinley, New Hampshire's Presidential Range, and the heart of the Grand Canyon. In 1980, Barbara received the Smith College Medal. The citation called her one of the key strategists and fundraisers of the team that raised the money and planned the building of Boston's magnificent Museum of Science. Brad and Barbara Washburn created this great institution, the world's first museum to combine natural history, the physical and applied sciences, and medicine under one roof. Joining us tonight is Brad and Barbara's daughter, Museum Overseer Betsy Washburn Cabot. In today's Museum of Science, we carry on Brad's vision, as well the story of how scientists use the inquiry process to discover the natural world and how engineers use the design process to create the world we live in. We have built upon Brad's strong foundation to become the world's class science center. And in recent years, we launched an award-winning K-12 engineering curriculum that has reached over 6 million students in the United States and has been used in 9 European countries and Israel, and now is being used in South America and soon, hopefully, Asia. Last year, we opened the 10,000 square foot Hall of Human Life, which is the world's state-of-the-art exhibition on health and human biology. And next June, we'll debut the Science Behind Pixar, which will explore how Pixar Animation Studios combines art with science, technology, engineering, and math to create some of the world's most popular animated films. And in December 2015, we'll unveil the Yogi Gallery on the Charles River. This is going to be a beautiful exhibit that looks at the natural habitat of the Charles, as well as the engineering environments that have shaped the cities of Boston and Cambridge. And we have expanded our programs and offerings around the topic of food, as you can see in the exhibit that we had some of the venues there. Mirvol's exhibit, and our goal is to see the Museum of Science become the world's leader institution in food education. And at this time, I would like to invite my friend, Chairman of the Museum's Board of Trustees, Harold Messing, to the stage.
Thank you, Yanis. You know, I often say there aren't many perks involved in being chairman here at the museum, but probably the biggest one is the opportunity to meet so many amazing people, and tonight certainly takes the cake on that score. I'd like to express my gratitude to the trustee whose anonymous donation established the Bradford Washburn Award in 1964. In doing so, he gave the Museum of Science 2 great gifts. The first gift is the ability to bring some of the world's leading science communicators to the museum for a special evening every year. The second gift is the opportunity to honor the legacy and achievement of Bradford Washburn and Barbara at each year's awards ceremony. For 50 years, the Washburn Award has been bestowed on individuals who embody Brad's spirit of adventure and his ability to translate and interpret science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for the public. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Washburn Award, it is a pleasure to welcome back to the Museum of Science 10 past Washburn awardees and to present each of them with a token of our appreciation. We have commissioned Peter Hauck, director of the MIT Glass Lab and an amazing artist, to produce these globes, which evoke pathways, the map contours of a mountain, contrails in the sky, and neural tracks in the human body. Those are examples of what they look like over there. Is Peter was hoping to be here tonight. I don't know if he made it. Anyway, these globes were inspired by a piece that Peter created way back in 1999 for Brad Washburn when he was honored by the Massachusetts Cultural Council with the Commonwealth Award. And it's our pleasure to give them out tonight. I'm going to turn this back to Tom to introduce the award winners.
Thank you, Howard. And now, a procession right here from the truly illustrious ranks of great past winners of the Washburn Award. When I call your name, please come up and make your way for a presentation here on the dais, if you would. Representing the National Geographic Society, which was honored with the Washburn Award in 1988 and whose president, Melville Bell Grosvenor, was the inaugural Washburn awardee in 1964, Rebecca Martin, Executive Director of National Geographic Expeditions Council. Rebecca. Oh, this way? Sorry, this way. Sorry, Rebecca. Many ways to proceed. He led the team that discovered the RMS Titanic in 1985, former director and scientist emeritus of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and current president of the Ocean Exploration Trust, 1986 Washburn awardee, Robert Ballard. Explorer, author, past director of the Royal Geographic Society and current chairman of the Amazon Charitable Trust, 1990 Washburn awardee, John Hemming. MacArthur Fellow, author and illustrator of The Way Things Work. Spent many evenings with you, sir, and my kids. 1993 Washburn awardee, David Macaulay. Executive producer of NOVA and director of the WGBH Science Unit, 1994 Washburn awardee, Paula Apsell. Two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning author and honorary curator in entomology and university research professor emeritus at Harvard, 1996 Washburn awardee, Edward O. Wilson. Wonderful. Retired medical editor of ABC News and author of Finding God in the Questions, 1998 Washburn awardee, Dr. Timothy Johnson. Former New York Times science writer and author of Longitude and Galileo's Daughter, 2001 Washburn awardee, Deva Sobel. Large format documentary filmmaker whose productions include the IMAX classics The Living Sea and Everest, 2002 Washburn awardee, Greg McKelvey. And Rick Armstrong, who is representing his late father, NASA commander of Apollo 11 and the first man on the moon, Neil Alden Armstrong, posthumous 2013 Washburn awardee. In June of 2012, Commander Armstrong graciously agreed to accept the 2013 Washburn Award. He passed away before the award could be presented to him. Sir. Thank you for coming. Please join me in one great round of applause for this tremendous turnout of past recipients of the Washburn Award. So much accomplishment in one place. And now, to this year's honorees. I feel like I'm at the Oscars. This is just awesome. Our first Washburn awardee tonight played a starring role in Danny Boyle's opening ceremonies for the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. A worldwide audience of 900 million watched Sir Timothy Berners-Lee center stage, typing on a vintage Next computer just like the one he used when he invented the World Wide Web in 1989. He tweeted at the Olympics opening a simple message that was instantly spelled out in LED lights around the stadium: "This is for everyone." That moment honored Berners-Lee's and the CERN's founding decision, to make the web free and available for everyone. He was a 34-year-old physics graduate working as a software engineer at CERN in 1989 when he wrote a paper simply titled "Information Management, a Proposal." Wow. The goal was a, quote, "universal linked information system." I think that worked out. In the 25 years since he gave the world a new way to share and to connect, he has worked tirelessly to make sure his invention remains free and open for everyone. Please welcome the director of the World Wide Web Consortium and professor of engineering at MIT, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee. Oh, I'm sorry. Allow me to read from the citation, in part. Sir Timothy Berners-Lee, you created one of the most empowering tools to help humankind discover and communicate. Your invention changed the world, providing everyone with a new outlet to learn, to share, and to grow. You are committed to safeguarding the web and nurturing its growth to ensure a free and open web for everyone. Sir Timothy Berners-Lee, we honor the far-reaching gift you have given the world, and we salute your outstanding contribution toward the public understanding and appreciation of science, technology, engineering, and math. Tim, will you take a seat? And the other two will join us. I think the first seat. Thank you, Sir Tim. Our next honoree was born just 5 miles from here at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Boston. He came to Saturday morning classes at the Museum of Science. He became an Eagle Scout at the age of 12. Is that a typo? No, okay, 12. Paying his own way to camp, selling Christmas wreaths, and yes, he was the top salesman in his troop. He worked his way through Johns Hopkins, earning a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering in 1964, went straight to Harvard Business School, earned his MBA 2 years later. After a 15-year career on Wall Street, he went on to build a news and financial information business that encompasses television, radio, online and wire services, and print media. But he wasn't done, isn't done. He served as mayor of New York City from 2002 to 2013, and in 2014, he was appointed special envoy for cities and climate change by United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Earlier this month, in recognition of his prodigious entrepreneurial and philanthropic endeavors, and for playing a, quote, key role in forging transatlantic diplomatic, economic, and cultural ties between the United Kingdom and the United States, he was named an honorary Knight of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth. Please welcome founder of Bloomberg LP, the guiding force behind Bloomberg Philanthropies, the 108th mayor of New York City and Medford's own, Michael R. Bloomberg. I'll read from your citation, Mr. Mayor. Michael Bloomberg's citation reads in part, "You foresaw the age of data in the financial industry and developed a powerful communications system that has grown into one of the world's largest and most trusted information sources. Through your long-held passion to combat climate change, you reduced New York City's greenhouse gas emissions, and you set an example for mayors around the world to rely on data and science to determine their best course. Your belief in the power of philanthropy to change people's lives for the better has inspired you to support education, the arts, government innovation, environmental sustainability, and public health. Michael Bloomberg, we celebrate your lifelong relationship with the Museum of Science, and we salute your extraordinary contribution to society and to the public understanding and appreciation of science, technology, engineering, and math." Michael Bloomberg. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg. For Richard Saul Wurman, information is energy. Information is inspiration. Information is the great equalizer. My kind of man. He coined the term information architecture back in 1976 in response to the vast amount of information generated in contemporary society. He said, "I thought the explosion of data needed an architecture, needed a series of systems, needed systemic design, a series of performance criteria to measure it. In more than 80 books, he's sought ways to make the complex clear. His hugely popular Access city guides have made New York, Tokyo, Rome, Paris, and London understandable and accessible for millions of visitors. He brought us TED Talks. We can barely remember the world without them. Please welcome creator, curator, and chair of TED from its inception in 1984 until 2003, and the distinguished professor of practice at Northeastern's College of Arts, Media, and Design, Richard Saul Wurman." Yes.
We're supposed to give remarks, so we're just changing up the order.
You're doing all the
Right. Let's start with Tim. It just went a little bit out of order, so just invite Tim to speak.
The citation reads in part, "You have for decades orchestrated the gathering of brilliant minds to exchange ideas, provoke thought, and inspire action. In 1984, you gave the world a new acronym, TED, that is, Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And you expanded the interdisciplinary scope of TED in the 1990s to explore new breakthroughs in science, medicine, business innovation, and more. Richard Saul Wurman, we honor you for your lifelong commitment to making information understandable and accessible, and we salute your outstanding contribution toward public understanding and appreciation of science, technology, engineering, and math." Sir. This is a remarkable moment. We've had these from the past recipients and these three tonight. It's really an honor to be in the presence of this gathering with all of you. We're going to have a short Q&A session, but I understand, Tim, Tim will give, each of our recipients this year will give brief remarks here. I will begin with Tim Berners-Lee. Sir.
Well, what can one say? to be honored like this in a space where we've just had some incredible people file through, incredible, wonderful to see these faces who have been bastions of science and bastions of communication. It's, I suppose, well, what one would say, of course, I'd have to point out to you that everybody who achieves something like gets a project working like the World Wide Web did, everybody who does that stands, of course, on the shoulders of giants. But if you're here, you know that, right? You're in the Museum of Science. Hello? You can figure that out. You can find out exactly whose shoulders everybody stood on. You can go back and check it out. So you can see how when I developed the web, it was based on all the things that people did at the internet. When we learned about, when I was a sort of kid and learning about networking, then the networking had a layer model then, where the bottom layers, there's a physical layer, which is the cables, and the next layer up, which is the link layer, which gets packets from one spot to another, and the network layer, which sends them around, routes them, and then a transport layer on top of that, which is some software which you run on top of that, which allows you to just treat the whole thing as though the network didn't exist, and just as and pipe stuff down it as the TCP layer. And so, in fact, when you look back at and right now, a lot of software architecture and the way the thing works, it's in those layers. And the web is, the things built on top of the web are other layers. And when you look at, so people learn about the layers in school as just being a part of how it works. And they may learn that they're bits of their software modules left on the computer. But of course, they all point to giants. They all point to the giants who figured out how to actually, at the bottom layer, how to make a piece of fiber optic or how to make a piece of wire and how to get the information down it. So each layer, there have been historically going up through the layers. There has been incredible work, brilliant discoveries, frustrations, first time getting the message across the Atlantic, first time getting a telephone call into the next room. There have been all these moments. And the moments and the people and this incredible richness of science, all based on science, has ended up, for me, leaving me in 1989 in a position where I had the internet. I had a situation where, without having to worry about all that stuff, I could write a program running on a machine that would communicate over the wire that it was plugged into, put a copy of the program on another machine, put a web server on one machine, put a web browser on another machine, and those programs could just communicate across the internet. And the internet and all the other layers which had already been fixed, already been invented, would work. Why do I mention that? Well, one of the things which is really magic for me was I could just do that sitting in a lab in CERN. The reason I could just do that sitting in a lab in CERN without asking anybody's permission is because of the way they designed that layer. So the folks who designed the internet designed it as a platform. They designed it as a platform. FinSurf and folks, when they designed it, they didn't determine what it should be used for. They left it to be used by anything, so they made it a platform in the sense that the platform is flat. They made it solid in the sense that it would continue to operate. It wasn't just made for one particular type of application. It was meant for anything. And I just point out, talking about technologies and museums and stuff, when I first came across the internet, people communicated down it using those modems, 300 bits per second. 300 bits per second modems sounded a bit like grrr, right, when you put them, right? Remember those modems? 300 bits per second. That same internet technology now works. The same browser code, the same browser and server can communicate over an internet that uses exactly the same technology, but actually the bits inside have all been souped up and it replaced with faster and faster bits, so it now goes at 300 billion bits a second. All right? Isn't that incredible? No other technology has done that. Okay? So, no, there are trains. You could probably find trains if this is a decent museum of science. When they'd invented trains, maybe they went at 30 miles an hour. 20 years later, were those trains going at 30 billion miles an hour? No. Trains maybe go at 300 miles an hour on a very, very good day in a different country than this one. So, so that I'm just going to show that the fact that I had this internet, the incredible sweetness of that design that the internet folks made, something solid platform, something that didn't care about what you made with it. It was socially a solid platform. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. It was a decentralized platform. It had been designed decentralized. Technically, I didn't have to go and plug into one central hub, and decentralized socially. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. If it had been designed in a centralized way, I would not have developed the web. People would not have developed all kinds of things. We would not be here talking about it. You would be talking about goodness knows what. So, really important thing about the internet was that openness, that decentralized nature of it. I just mentioned that because, first of all, if you're working on the web, we're trying to do that with the web. We're trying to make sure that the web is this platform as well, which is open. The open web platform, when you develop your really cool apps using HTML5 and JavaScript and CSS and all the stuff which is being developed on top of the web. We're trying to keep that as an open platform as well. If you're involved in that, keep it. Try to keep the same thing so that it goes at 300 billion miles an hour. Okay, and remember that the openness of the web, the fact that it was designed as a completely neutral medium, was really important for me then. It will be really important for all the innovation which happens on top of it. And sometimes we have to actually get involved not only with the science, but also we have to get involved with the politics and the policies to make sure that the thing is kept open, both socially as well as technically. Just saying. Thanks very much.
Sir Tim Berners-Lee, 2014 Washburn Award winner, raising big questions right there about the web's openness and how that will or will not continue. We'll look at that a little bit. Please join me in welcoming remarks from Michael Bloomberg.
Well, Tom, thank you, and good evening, everyone. I want to thank the other two honorees. One of them, Richard, founded the fascinating TED Talk series, which is helping expose a lot of people to big issues in science and technology. And the other, Tim, who is not enthusiastic at all, played a key role in developing the internet. I will warn you, don't blame him for all the cat videos you get emailed. That was Al Gore that did that one. Anyways, it's an honor to join a group of Washburn honorees that includes names like Jane Goodall and Carl Sagan and Neil Armstrong. So it's really quite an august company. I grew up in Medford, Massachusetts, came to the museum here, and if my parents had thought then that I would someday be given an award with the Bradford Washburn name on it, they would have been shocked. That's not to suggest that my contribution to science would be a great leap at all, but nevertheless, I'm one of those people that funds the science rather than invents the science. But as I've always said, you need both of us. Anyways, this is a real special honor. Everyone that remembers the first teacher that they had that had a profound effect on their life. And for me, that teacher was the Boston Museum of Science. I grew up in Medford, Massachusetts, graduated Medford High School in 1960, but about 1955, 54, I started coming here every Saturday morning for classes. 2 hours, as I remember, they lasted. I took a bus from West Medford to Sullivan Square, the subway into downtown, and the trolley towards Lechmere Square. And those mornings, every Saturday morning, really changed my life, and they helped define what I thought about and how I approached life, and convinced me that if you don't know something, ask the question. And that really is something that has stood me well and with time. The museum was the place where I learned to ask questions and recognize just how much there is to learn about the world and to follow science wherever it leads. I was upstairs taking a tour, and there is a cross-section of one of these big old trees that go back 1,000 years, and I'll never forget the question that we got one Saturday morning from whichever professor was giving the course. How old is the giant redwood? And everybody tried to remember where the pins were and how far back it went. And I don't know what possessed me, but I said it was not a redwood, it was a giant sequoia. Thank you, I won the competition. And I checked upstairs, it is a sequoia. Anyways, the time I spent at the museum really did spark a lifelong passion in trying to figure out how to make things work better. And if it wasn't for the museum, I never would have tried to be a physics major in college. I went to Johns Hopkins in 1960. I got there, and it turned out there was a mandatory German requirement, because if you think about it, in the 60s, all the science had come from Germany. And after 3 days in German class, I changed the engineering department. My first D in high school was in French, and I can tell you I was never going to learn to speak German. That I knew. But the museum did start me on a path to studying engineering and becoming a technology entrepreneur and developing a passion for public health. And that public health passion has been fueled by a great Boston resident, Tenley Albright, who is right here. She has been one of my guiding lights, and if you don't know who Tenley Albright is, I would urge you to Google her tonight. You will be just amazed at what this one young lady, who's got to be in her mid-30s if I had to guess, what she has done. She is on the board of my foundation, has been really seriously somebody that's been very helpful in what we do in public health around the world. This museum gave me the utmost respect for science, and I've always carried it with me no matter what the politics. And if more of our elected officials would spend more time in museums like this, we wouldn't be debating whether climate change is real. We'd be doing something to mitigate the risks that we face from it. We also wouldn't be debating the Second Amendment. Instead, we'd be treating gun violence as the public health scourge that it is. And instead, yes. And instead of talking about how America is losing its edge in science and technology, we would be investing in basic science, R&D, that we need to stay competitive in the 21st century and doing something about our public school system. I do believe that the future is possible, and institutions like this one will play a big role in bringing it about. That future is a future where every kid gets a chance to get an education and share in the great American dream. This place does mean a lot to me. In fact, when my family was looking for a place to celebrate my mother's 100th birthday about 5-6 years ago, we knew that this museum would be the perfect place to have a party. I have lots of pictures at home of her with the 100th. We didn't have 100 candles. One candle was enough. As she said at that age, she couldn't blow out 100 candles. But I never would have been dreamed, seriously, would have dreamed as a kid that I would be here. And I think it's fair to say that thanks to the generosity of a lot of people like you and a lot of people who were before you, this museum today is an exciting place to be. And it's a great educational opportunity for our kids, and it's one of the jewels in the crown of Boston. And it's unbelievable today that kids have the opportunity to come here and learn. So thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful institution, and I could not be more honored than to be here with you. Thank you.
Michael Bloomberg, thank you. If you ever have any doubt about the importance of this place to the kids who flood through these doors day after day, here it lives and breathes in one life, and it's really great. Welcome home again, Mr. Mayor. Our final remarks tonight, and then we'll have a short Q&A. Last but by no means least, Richard Saul Werman. Sir.
I'm not humble, but I am the least among these two gentlemen. It's amazing to be here. Just perfectly amazing to be here. My life is about being around people smarter than me. And so I feel like a pig in shit here. This is just an amazing group of people. I see E.O. Wilson, who was at my last conference. It wasn't a TED conference, when you gave that wonderful conversation with Craig Venter, and then he announced that just a few days before, or a week before, that he's partly what he does, he's the Ant-Man, and that the queen ant and all the other ants were one creature, like the Borg in Star Trek. It was astonishing, and he was just sort of sitting and telling us about that. And the other end of that same row is Bob Ballard. And I told him before that I have under glass jars in my office 2 teddy bears, because I used to give away teddy bears at my TED conference. I was a big, fat person, and so that was sort of me, and I gave away teddy bears. I thought that was cute. I always think things are cute. And one of them went down to the Titanic, and they told me it was crushed into like this, and it came up and expanded. I have it. And another went to the Bismarck, 2 things that he discovered. It's just astonishing to look around this room and realize that for me, my whole life is about learning, and that learning is remembering what you're interested in. Learning should come from the bottom up, not education from the top down. And this is a chamber of curiosities. This is a place of curiosities, a place where you can touch things with your mind if you're interested in them and remember them. David Macaulay gave a short speech that most of you didn't hear today. It was earlier. And he took us on this amazing journey of connections of things. And TED was about connections. It was about convergence. And that's the theme of this whole building. When you told us what was in this building and what different kinds of, you said it's the only and the first, and it combines medicine and food, and it combines this and that. This is the convergence of our life, made possible and made easier, much easier, by Sir Tim's little invention, his little paper. Some of you must have this joy of being in the open stacks of a library, and it's right on your desk. And every day you can just have a journey, a trip through something. You can ask a question, and even though Wikipedia isn't so accurate sometimes, you get a pretty good answer. For a long time, they had me a year younger. Well, my father made cigars. My mother's family were kosher butchers, and they certainly wouldn't understand me being here at all. And I don't understand me being here at all. So even though they're not around, we share that. Have an interesting life.
Saul Werman, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. This concludes the Wizard of Oz portion of our proceedings tonight. Now we get to actually talk, and I'm really looking forward to this. We've got a little time here for Q&A. We're going to dive right in. Tim Berners-Lee, to Richard Saul Werman's point, every day on our NPR show, we sit at a table and we decide what we're going to talk about the next day. Thanks to you, we can come up with any topic in the universe, and 1 hour later, my producers can hand me a beautiful stack of research pulled down off the web, I often think to myself, without the web, there's no way we could turn a show around of the complexity and depth that we do every day. We appreciate the internet, and we thank you for it, and we wonder how the web, the internet, in the current configuration, maybe that's a scientific term, but just the way it's turned out, and I don't mean scientifically, but overall, how does it compare to what you imagined in 1989? You have a mic, yes. How is it like and unlike what you may have thought?
Well, so in 1989, so I called it the World Wide Web. So I planned that it, designed it so that it could put anything on it. In fact, sort of planned that it should have pretty much everything on it. In fact, so the projections that we put into the computers back then predicted that sort of 25 years later, roughly, I'd probably be getting this prize at this museum. No, of course not. Of course you couldn't predict it. We were working really hard to try to keep it afloat, and the thing was going up exponentially. There's an awful lot of things that go up exponentially like that, okay, or like that. And so some of the other, trying to just keep it on track exponentially was a lot of hard work. We didn't spend a lot of time thinking, ooh, I wonder what's going to be on the web. It was just making sure, keeping it open, making sure, trying to just keep all the creativity and all the engineers designing bits of it, designing new technology, keeping them all talking to each other enough to keep a consensus so that it would be one web, so it wouldn't split into different incompatible webs, which still is really, really important part of it. So no, you couldn't imagine, because what you see out there is the product of millions of people's individual creativity. And that, so the really important thing about the web as a platform is that it enables that ridiculous richness of creativity in other people. If it could only do things that we could imagine back then, it would have failed.
What astonishes you about what's on the web today?
When you look at the web, really the web is a tool that humanity uses. The idea is that it should be a fairly neutral one. So you're asking me what astonishes me about humanity?
Yes, essentially, I guess
Everything
so.
good and bad. I mean, you can't, there's no one pick. I've never had a favorite. Every year people have asked me about my favorite website, and I've always refused to say. But seriously, there's no one particular thing that, I suppose, if there's one theme out of the whole last 25 years, which has been amazing, it's been the spirit of the collaborative spirit of all the people who've got involved in it. So that was, before I'd really worked on the internet, it was my first internet-based project. So it was the first time I could work with people across the internet. Now we do it all the time, but so discovering the huge amount of just goodwill and excitement, and the number of people on the planet who will do something just because it seems like a good idea at the time, or it would be really good if everybody did. Not necessarily clear that everybody will do it, but you know what? I will do it anyway. That sort of person, that's been astonishing.
I'll come back to you. I have more questions on the web. Mayor Bloomberg, you've left City Hall. You're back leading Bloomberg LP. You changed the business world and more with Bloomberg LP in the first place. Now you're back. Data has just grown and grown and grown. I'm sure we would all love to hear you blue sky a little bit about the future of data in business and beyond. As a business leader again, with deep roots and experience and success in slicing and dicing and distributing and managing data, what do you see coming in the realm of data and how we handle and use it?
Well, while Tim was talking, I was thinking, he built this wonderful thing, but then it's up to us how we're going to use it. You have governments that want to control what you can put over it. You have commercial interests that may distort the ability of some people to have access. We have to deal with the security issues of what's the appropriate role of government to have oversight if in a world where we have terrorism. So he's built a wonderful platform, but now it's up to the rest of us to determine how it's going to be used and whether it's a force for good or a force for evil. Data is great, but it's who gets it and what you do with it that really matters. And we live in a world where you could make an argument that because of the web and technology that lets those bits and bytes go at amazing speeds that we never anticipated before, it is much harder to govern, and it is much harder to have a business that functions, and it's much harder to keep society from overreaching and reacting too quickly. And you see that every day. You watch the chaos with Ebola, which really has killed about 4,500 people so far in the world, and the number of infectious diseases just in the last 10 years that have killed 500,000 people is more than you can count. But we overreact, or this ability to communicate instantly with no time to reflect and no governance where there's liability for slander, no insistence on vetting of the quality and the accuracy of information, really is both a blessing and a danger to society. And I will say I worry a lot about how we are going to function without overreacting to every single thing. And you see that in government right now. In the interest of a quick soundbite, people say things that are not true, and it gets repeated so many times that it creates its own reality. And that's not good for society.
It can be used in many ways. Decades ago, you saw opportunity with Bloomberg, and I'm curious now, looking forward again, the opportunities in future you see in data, not for misuse, but for new and original and innovative use. What are you contemplating as you look forward?
Well, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. So it does let us understand problems and gives us the tools to address them. Whether we are smart enough as a society to do that, I'm not sure, and some days I'm pretty skeptical. There was a time when if Richard wanted to say something, he had time to think about it, and he could pick his audience, the venue, who was there. He could present it in the ways that he wanted to. And today, we've lost a lot of that. You see the parent who says, "Oh, isn't it wonderful? Look, my child just did a junior high school or elementary school report, and it's amazing. It's got links to audio and video and stuff from around the world." And you say, "But lady, your kid doesn't know what it's about." And we've gone to the delivery device and the form rather than the substance. And that's the great danger with data. It's a tool. Mathematics is the oldest language in the world. It's the most used language in the world. But you've got to step back and understand it. And too many of us look at the numbers, but don't know what they're saying. And our school system seems uniquely unqualified to teach that. And I think calculators are, well, I still use a slide rule. A slide rule lets you look at relationships. A calculator just gives you an answer that you don't know what it means. And if it's wrong, you wouldn't know it. And there's something to be said about too much science. And I think today, reading, writing, arithmetic, learning to work collaboratively and cooperatively are skills that are more in need today than ever before. And when I listen to somebody say, "Oh, all your kid has to do is learn how to code and they will be successful," I think that's a disaster. That's just not true for your child. Coding is just another ways of speaking, but you've got to be able to think before you use a language.
Wow, too much science. The Museum of Science is quaking tonight, but I take your point. Richard, You've described yourself as having a life in information theory. I've got a kind of a version of the question that I put to Tim, Sir Tim. You spent your life there, information theory. How's the world shaping up vis-a-vis best practices or your ideal on that front?
Well, there's a similar question going around three of us. And I was talking to the mayor before we got in here about my interest in understanding cities, because I don't think cities can talk to each other and learn from each other. And to me, understanding precedes action. And many people take action before they understand. They pick up an idea and act on it before I'm more patient. I also see some of the numbers that the mayor is talking about, some of the technology, some of the data that's both have been alluding to, and I'm really interested not so much in big data, but big understanding. And I believe there is a methodology to understanding, and there are ways of understanding that have not been running parallel to the growth and explosion of data. The Washburns had come to TED, and my first sort of scientific experience, and I had a wonderful trip today in the Maya. There's a big Maya exhibit here.
Yes, at the museum.
And when I was 21, I went to the jungle of Guatemala in the first year of the expedition to Tikal.
You were doing archaeology.
Huh?
Archaeology.
Yeah. And I used a slide rule, probably the last time I used a slide rule. But I did plane table surveying of 1/3 of Tikal, which at that time was the largest and the oldest of the Mayan cities. And it was about mapping. It was about having a new vision of seeing something. And I'm interested in mapping of information, but not necessarily just cartographic mapping. You only understand something relative to something you understand. I have a new book that I'm doing that starts, I won't tell you the beginning of it, except there's one phrase in the beginning where somebody steps off the curb in London, looks the wrong way, and almost gets hit by a bus. And he realizes that the bus is about the size of the tongue of a blue whale. But he's exaggerating because it's a double-decker bus. And the bus gets hit by a Volkswagen Beetle, which is about the size of a blue whale's heart, and was Hitler's people's car, first built in 1935, the year I was born. And it's that kind of connectivity of understanding as a way of taking a journey through life that interests me.
Do you see the web ultimately as sympathetic to you say we have data running parallel but not exactly connecting with the best ways of really conveying understanding. Is the web anti-understanding at some level? Can it be woven into a better matrix of understanding?
I think the word more is more emphasized than the word clarity in our world.
More is more emphasized than clarity. Yeah.
Everybody wants more.
Yeah.
More data, more things. That seems to be more important than clarity, than understanding.
You talked about mapping the Mayan cities. I know next year you're opening at the restored Smithsonian Castle on the Mall in Washington, what will be called the Urban Observatory. I've seen it described as a major cartographic project. What is it? What's that mean?
Well, we have data from 100 cities in the world, which for the first time ever will be shown comparatively with about 50 layers of information, all at the same scale, all collected in the same way, all displayed in the same way, and that you can interact and change the scale, the size, pick your city, and pick the layer of information you want to see, and start understanding something relative to something else.
And what's the insight you hope will come from that activity?
Just that understanding precedes action, that it's a beginning point, it's a beginning language, the way you wouldn't want to have one doctor in your operating room using the English system of measurement and another using the metric system as they cut you open. It's just making, it's numbers we all agree upon, but language and cities we don't.
Tim, back to you if I may. On March of this year, the 12th, of course, 25th anniversary of the web, you put a post on Google, and you raised some very large questions in this post, and I won't go to all of them, but a couple. And one was, how do we build a consensus around open standards to link the coming Internet of Things, your internet kind of leaping out of the digital world and literally into things? What's coming? And what's your question suggest?
That was a post in March about Internet of Things. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm reading here, it's quoted.
But in answer to your question about what's coming. So the Internet of Things, I think the geeks among us have always been pretty excited about, have tended to wire things up anyway. So I suppose I've always liked to have my house, to be able to figure out what temperature my house is when I'm at work and when I'm things like that. So I've always tended to have sort of bits of wire running around. And right now we have a Arduino in the basement with all various things connected to it. So it's always understanding the state of things in your own life has been. To me, seems a kind of natural sort of thing. To some people who now are talking about the Internet of Things being this big coming revolution, and hey, you'll be able to turn on your fridge from your desk. Why do you want to do that? But you can. It seems that maybe it's novel for me. The data is when you look at the data out there on the web, you see databases which sort of represent, for example, when you look at a map, you look at a database, when you look at Ronald Richards' map exhibits, you're looking at data. You're looking through something which allows you to see it, and the reason that you can make sense of it is that it's being mapped onto a geographical space. And you're using all the stuff you have in your head for navigating around cities and finding your way home, or all that part of your brain is being applied. And so that's why I find maps a really good way of looking at information. What you're looking at a map, you think of it as a map, you think of it as being, maybe you think of it as being something quite artistic, but in a way, it's data about specific things which are at specific points. It's the data about the state of, when you go to the OpenStreetMap, and you'll be able to find I'm sure, the outline of the Museum of Science. If it's wrong, you can go fix it because the OpenStreetMap is read-write. So there are data points out there which correspond to things happening in real life. The Internet of Things is just about connecting them up so that that stuff happens automatically. So when you put a sensor on something, you can put a sensor now on the corner of the Science Museum, and the map can now display the temperature there. You can put a whole array of sensors in balloons or on animals. You can wire up. You can make sure that every device that you buy to connect to plug into your house has got a chip in it. And so bit by bit, if you like, the Internet of Things is data which is being more automatically produced. Is it going to be? We already have huge amounts of data. Yes, I suppose there's going to be more, but we've had explosion. The amount of data has been generally increasing. So as we add a whole bunch of sensors, then I don't see us getting overwhelmed. I see it being useful. I think it being interesting. I think the most interesting thing with any data is when you connect it you join it to other data. It's never really interesting by itself. So that will be true of the Internet of Things. It will be useful when you can pull in the sensor data, the temperature data, and connect it with other things. Connect it with, with data about.
Do you see it deeply changing our relationship with the physical world when lots of things and ultimately maybe everything is wired up? Apart from the mass of data, our relationship to physical objects when they're wired.
Well, I think that augmented reality will be fun. So augmented reality is when I hold up a screen or I put on my goggles, and when I look at this building, the machine can then project this as though I'm in a video game.
Virtual
I can make
presence,
real
yeah.
life like a video game. So I think when we have that stream of data, until we have that stream of data, augmented reality is a fun idea, but actually you don't have anything for it to chew on. When we have streams of Internet of Things data, then we'll have more, then augmented reality will be more fun. It'll mean that driving on the street there will be yet more information which you could be distracted with and things. So yes, I think it'll be interesting and it'll be fun, but I don't think, I don't think it will be very upsetting. I think it will just be one more cool thing.
Michael Bloomberg, there's a lot of talk in this building and beyond about science communication. You spoke of it in your remarks tonight, successes and failures, things that the public is informed on and politicians are or are not informed on. I wonder, in your time as mayor of New York in civic leadership, what you learned on that front. Maybe take Sodagate as an example. What did you learn about science communication from Sodagate, your push to limit the sale of large, sweet, fattening drinks?
Number one, we didn't limit the sale of anything.
Okay.
We simply wanted to use what's called portion control to remind you how much you have in your hand.
Tyrant.
So if you wanted to have 32 ounces, buy two 16-ounce cups. For some reasons beyond me, the court said we couldn't do it, which is, we still think the law was wrong there. But the truth of the matter is Coca-Cola's earnings are way down. Coke sales and Pepsi sales are way down. There are lots of places that are starting to tax full sugared drinks. Coca-Cola is about to come out with an 8-ounce instead of 12-ounce bottle and called Coke Life, L-I-F-E, which is lower sugar content. It's a battle we've won, or at least we haven't won the war, but there's an awful lot of people around the world that all of a sudden are waking up to say, my God, obesity is going to kill more people than smoking. And smoking, after all of our efforts to cut smoking out around the world, is still going to kill 1 billion people this century. So, it takes a while to educate the public. You have to go through the silly season where the crazies say all these things, which the papers turn into headlines because we buy those papers when there's outrageous stuff on them and when there's failure and embarrassment and sex and whatever. But
go on.
But we do learn, and we are making progress. And people today live longer. We were joking before, we're upstairs in the health exhibit, and I pointed out there was a cartoon I have at home, these two cavemen around the fire, and one says, I don't get it. We drink clean water, we breathe pure air, all our food's organic, we get plenty of exercise, and we die at 25. So we've come a long way since then. And Dow Corning may not be perfect, they may be killing us, but they're doing it at age 85 instead of 25. What's wrong? What did I miss here?
Okay. Good. Maybe a higher tier question then on leadership. It's a very important part of communication of everything. What did you learn about civic leadership from your time as mayor of New York that you didn't know from the corporate world? Do you still have a taste for it? How does 2020 sound?
2020 doesn't sound very good.
16 then.
My perception after being in government for 12 years, and there are a lot of people that know a lot more than I do about it, but I am, for all the pessimism that I have about misusing information and science, I still remind myself that America is the country that when you vote with your feet, you come to, and that the public is an awful lot smarter than the press. In the end, most of the people want somebody that's genuine, and they listen to the explanations. It may take them a while to get there, but elected officials who have the courage to stand up and say, look, I don't care if you agree with me or not, I'm sorry if you don't, but this is what I really believe. People look at that person in the eye, and that's the person they vote for. Not everyone and not all the time, but if you have to have a strategy, if you're an elected official, my advice to you would be stand up and be who you are, say what you believe, even if people don't like it. And I'll never forget the first day I ever campaigned. It was on South Beach in Staten Island, And I'm standing there, and this nice little old lady, about this tall, white hair, looks up at me adoringly, and she said, "Oh, you're sort of a breath of fresh air. You're going to win. Your opponent's going to drop out." And I'm thinking, hey, shit, I've won it already. It's first day. And then she looked up at me adoringly, and she said, "And I'm so glad you're pro-life." And I remember, I've been a big supporter of Planned Parenthood, and I remember for a billionth of a second thinking, what do you say? And I just looked her in the eye and said, "I'm so sorry, but I don't agree with you at all. I happen to be very much pro-choice." I would bet my life I got her vote. Because in the end, she would respect me for saying what I wanted, not necessarily what she wanted to hear. And I just am an optimist on that.
Might you ever be tickled back into that arena?
I couldn't hear you.
Public leadership. Might you be... Yeah, I'll speak more clearly.
You know, the world wants leaders, and the world wants honest people. Everybody wants recognition and respect, and they want a better life for themselves and their kids. And we shouldn't be so pessimistic about the craziness that you hear and the people who doubt science and that sort of thing. The danger is that it spirals out of control. This country clearly has some big problems with education and crime and immigration and not funding science. But we've been through these periods before. We've had plenty of times when the elected officials were crazy or where they were polarized and couldn't come together. And for 235 years, we've kept democracy going, and I'm still thinking that's going to happen.
Richard, I love what a free thinker you are. You can feel it every time you get in front of a microphone and you unleashed a torrent of beautiful, sparkling, free thinking with Ted. I'm curious, I'll take anything that's on your mind. You're as happy as a pig, et cetera here. Expanding the vocabulary of high honor.
I was just in awe of being here on the first day of your next campaign.
You heard it right here.
Pro-choice, pro-gay rights, anti-gun, pro-immigration, believe in science. I get 10% of the vote.
Where's your great hope? Where's your great fear, Richard?
My fear is losing my memory and not having interesting days.
You're doing all right so far, I think,
So
sir.
far, I've had a more interesting life than I had anticipated. And the things that I learn every day. At lunch today, I told half a story, and I'll tell the other half, and then I think we should end this.
You're the boss. TED Talk, man.
I was in New York, and I was sitting next to Woody Allen, and I said, "Woody, I understand that you said that that 80 is the new dead."
80 is the new dead.
And he said, "Well, I said it, but I didn't think it up," which I thought was funnier than saying it, that he said. So I wanted to see if I could create a joke, because I thought it was fairly hard to create a joke. Because a joke is, the structure of a joke is the opposite of expectation. So here's my joke. You don't have to laugh at it. I'm 79, and 79 is the new 77.
All right. We'll ponder it with good humor in our hearts. It's a delight to be with all of you. It's an honor to be in your presence. We honor you tonight, and we thank you for being here. Richard Saul Wurman, Michael Bloomberg, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Giannis, take us home, please, sir.
This was just wonderful. Once again, thank you all for being a part of the 50th anniversary celebration of the Washburn Award. And many thanks to our host, Tom Ashbrook. You were terrific. Thank you. I would also like to thank members of the Prizes and Awards Committee, many of whom are here with us tonight, for reviewing many, many, many nominations from our community to select this year's Washburn Award recipients. And I would like to thank Sir Tim Berners-Lee, Richard Saul-Wurman, and Michael Bloomberg. It was terrific having you here. It was such an honor for our museum to recognize you. So everyone, please mark your calendars and save the date for the 2015 Washburn Award, which is going to be on October 22nd, and we honor Michael Pollan, the Knight Professor of Journalism at UC Berkeley's Graduate School of Journalism. And Michael is the author of Cooked, Food Rules, and the Omnivore's Dilemma. He is an amazing speaker, and I hope you all plan to join us here at the museum here next year, October 22nd, 2015, for the 51st presentation of the Bradford Washburn Award. And please, on your way out, collect a tote bag with a Washburn Award commemorative book and a copy of Richard's book, Understanding Healthcare. And of course, coffee and dessert are being served in the lobby, so please stay and mingle around. Thank you all for this great night.